First technique you're going to learn during your intro class is the Americana from side control. So the first thing that we want to explain to you is that side control position here, it's a platform for submissions. Every single position in Jiu-Jitsu is a way for you to get to the submissions. Today we're going to learn one position from side control, one position from the mount, one position from the guard, and one position from the background. So we'll start with side control here. So a proper side control, I'm perpendicular to my opponent. The first detail here is that my knee is going to be glued to his hips. This is very important to prevent him from getting out of there. You're going to learn that later. This arm here, it's going to be underneath his neck, and the pressure is going to come in with my shoulder. Ideally, I almost want to force him to look towards that side so I narrow his possibilities here for escape. So, as far as the leg goes, my leg is going to be extended or flexed depending on how offensive I want to be. For the beginners right now, we're just going to have that leg extended. We're trying to lower our center of gravity as much as possible. This is the arm that I'm going to attack, okay? Usually the beginners will leave this arm here at bay and you can easily grab it. But what happens here is he's going to be hiding that arm. If anything, he's going to be pushing against my neck here to try to create some space to escape the position. So this is when I'm going to attack. The first thing that I want to do here is to isolate the far arm. So I'll grab on the wrist. I'm going to push that wrist down here. Okay? So you can see that I'm starting to try to create a 90-degree angle, and that's what the Americana is all about. So I'm going to push it down here, and there are two ways of doing this. I can lose the head first, or I can trap the wrist first. Okay? Both will work. Sometimes you do one, sometimes you do the other. But the important thing is that you cannot finish this lock with the head in there. It's really, really complicated to do it. So you need to lose the head at one point or another. So I could grab the wrist first and then let the head go. Or I can be right here, push it down, leave the head, and control the wrist. Okay? One of the two. As soon as I control the wrist, I want to spike the elbow here between his shoulder and his neck. It is very, very important not to leave the elbow out here. If I leave the elbow out here and I close the lock, and you will talk about it later, and he tries to extend, it's going to be very hard for me to resist that power, especially if he's a stronger person on the bottom. So I want to make sure I'm spiking that elbow here to create a true 90-degree angle here on his arm. That is really biomechanically not good for him, hard for him to extend against that. Now, once I get this here, the last part of the movement, I'm going to insert my arm underneath his arm, and I'm going to grab my own wrist. Okay? A lot of people with the Americana, traditionally it's taught with 5 fingers on one side. I prefer to teach it with thumb and 4 fingers. You just got to get a strong enough grip. If you need 5 fingers on the side, sure, it makes you stronger against the extension, but it also makes you completely powerless against anything that happens, a scramble where the arm moves towards the inside. It's better to develop your grip strength and have the ability to hold on to that arm with just 4 fingers. It'll come, okay? The second hand comes in underneath his arm, and I grab my own wrist here, and I got this position. In order to crank this, what you want to do is keep that arm here of his down towards the ground like a paintbrush. And now I will elevate my elbow, and you can see that elevates his elbow as well. The problem with just doing this here is that it takes a while, so you can see he's a little flexible. It's going to take a while before he taps. What I want to do is to make sure that I don't have to raise my center of gravity while doing that. So I'm going to bring before the elbow towards the hip. So instead of just cranking right now, as a lot of beginners will do, try to bring the elbow towards the hip, and then you apply the pressure. Okay, this will make you a lot more effective with a lock, and that's what Jiu-Jitsu is all about. So sometimes the little details is what matters. So once again, from the beginning of the position, I'm in side control. You're going to be looking usually towards the legs with your chin down here. You're going to control the wrist. You're going to pass the wrist to the opposite hand like this and lose the head, or you're going to bring the hand down, lose the head, and grab the wrist. As soon as I do either, I'm going to spike my elbow towards the neck and shoulder. Now my arm is going to go underneath. I'm going to grab my own wrist. Once I grab my own wrist, I'm going to bring that elbow towards the hip and slowly elevate my own elbow get into submission. One last time, good side control. I got the knee glued to the hip bone. I got shoulder pressure here. This left leg is gonna be extended. I will control the wrist. I'm gonna push down on it, transfer that grip. I'm using 4 fingers and thumb, but I have a strong grip on this, okay? I'm gonna lose the head, spike the elbow, go under his arm, grab my own wrist. Everything is in a 90-degree angle here, okay? This and that last one as well. Now bring the elbow towards the hip and keep that paintbrush motion. So hand of his is gonna be down to the floor, elbow is gonna be elevated when I elevate my own, gets the tap. Remember, when you feel the pain, tap 3 times on your opponent or on the mat loudly. If you cannot tap for whatever reason, yell tap, okay? But don't take your time and don't try to resist, especially in your intro class.